Hello and welcome back to the North American LCS, where OpTic Gaming will face Counter Logic Gaming shortly. My name is David Freak Turley, and I formally challenge Isaac Gazelle Cummings Bentley to a doggy drag race later this weekend.
You get smashed. You see how fast Daisy is?
My dog's real slow. Puns is real derpy. We're going to kick things off by looking at the starting lineups, and selecting the blue side here for this game is going to be OpTic Gaming, Zig in the top lane, Acadian in the jungle, Power of Evil in mid, Arrow alongside Elimination in the bot lane with their coach Zabutin.
And their opponents today, facing them on the red side, are going to be Counter Logic Gaming. In the top lane, Darshan. In the jungle, Rainover. Mid lane, Huhi, bot, and support going to be Stixay and Biofrost with Coach 6.
It's going to be a fun one, of course. Last week when we saw Counter Logic Gaming actually pulled their fans away from the panic shelters, they showed some improvements in their areas of weakness, they picked up a couple of wins.
Yeah, and that was really, really important for them. Stixay looked good for the first time this split, and I think that was such a big boon to this team. The fact that they were able to build their compositions around him, have him perform not only well in the early game, but in the late game team fights was very, very nice to see. And Rainover also had a couple of really strong games, but we have to measure expectations because it was just 2 games. The first 2 weeks did not look very impressive, and they need to be able to show clean games consistently, and that's what we're looking for against OpTic today.
Yeah, they're against a team that on paper they should be able to beat 3-3 versus 1-5, but let's talk about OpTic though, because this is probably a tougher opponent than you might think so on paper. Despite the fact that they are 1-5, a lot of these losses have been really close. This team could have a much better record.
Yeah, they've had a very tough schedule. They've played TL, C9, Echo Fox, TSM, so a lot of the top teams, clearly the top 3 already, and a lot of those games were within one team fight of being their victory. PoE has been playing very well for himself, I think, so far. You can see his stats have been very impressive, been involved in much of the good stuff going on for OpTic, and they just need to be able to kind of pull some wins together now. It's not about just keeping it close, it's about actually closing out games.
Absolutely. So, of course, we are now into the 4th week of the regular split, so you figure these teams have had a lot more time to gel and get things ready, and the excuse can kind of no longer be, oh, we just got together, we hadn't had that many scrims yet. Now we're kind of at the point where if your support staff is good, if your coaching is solid, the OpTic coach, of course, on your screen right here, this is where you really need to start showing the returns that, okay, we practiced up, we know our team combinations, we've not been ambushed by 8.2 anymore, you've had a week on that patch already to play matches and scrims on, so let's see what they can bring out for us today.
Yeah, exactly. There's not really any more excuses, right? You have to be able to perform at this stage, and we're going into week 4. Playoffs are a distant dream if you continue to lose at this point for OpTic. You know, there is still time to make up a lot of ground in the standings. You know, 5th place is at 3 wins, right? You can actually get to 3 wins this weekend and be able to potentially knock down CLG a little bit if you can beat them here today.
Absolutely true. The weekend could end with OpTic tying with CLG if all goes well for them. The picks and bans coming through: Zoe, Ornn, Kalista, and Galio still at the table so far. Wait to see what these teams actually consider very valuable. Ezreal has still been a pretty fairly frequent pick, despite getting some nerfs in 8.2, so we'll see if that ends up being a big deal. Arrow's played it quite a bit.
We've also seen Skarner twice in a row so far today, and it hasn't really been much of a pick in the NLCS prior to that, so it'll be interesting to see if that is going to remain high priority, or if that was more, you know, sometimes there's one group of teams that are all practicing one thing and believe it is good, and another group does not really agree with that.
We'll see what comes through out of this one. As the final few bans coming through, Gangplank off the table, so clearly OpTic not trying to first pick that for themselves. Zig has been mostly on tank duty so far, aside from the one Urgot game for himself. Darshanzo has been pretty good for a while. No Jace. They are going to get rid of one of Zig's pocket picks all the same, even though he has not shown that champion just yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen Kled from him either. We did see Licorice bring that out, so it is still viable in certain matchups, and that really was kind of how Zig made his name, I feel like, a lot in the NALCS, being one of the only guys to bring out Kled, being so proficient on that champion. Caitlyn is definitely a possibility, but not expecting that to be a first pick, and it's going to be the blind Gnar. Yeah, it's kind of weird to me, though, to see GP as a ban when you're going to early pick Gnar, when that is statistically a very favorable matchup for the Gnar.
I agree.
So that does maybe show a little bit of lack of confidence in that matchup for Zig. Because when you look at the global averages, it's something like over 20 CS ahead at 15 for Gnar, so that should be something you want.
I think it became a flex or an adaptation as soon as you saw the Jace ban, because Jace ends up being a pretty common pick into Gnar because you can bully him out. Jace is just that little bit stronger early game, and so once they saw Jace off the table, like, wait a second, the counter picks are gone. I'm going to assume that was a thought process. Of course, we can't know for sure, but that would be the little benefit I would give them for this. Of course, Ezreal plus Sejuani comes over to the CLG side, and now it's back to OpTic's turn.
Ryze quickly locked in there. Azir is still on the table, someone who has seen so much priority in the NALCS, and I'm a little bit shocked actually to see that Ryze is kind of above him in priority so far this week. I just think Azir is so incredibly strong in this meta, the amount of wave clear and playmaking, and also objective like power you have, the speed at which you can take down dragons and barons and these sorts of things really does give you so much power in the later stages of the game, and when the games are going slow, that's often what it comes down to.
CLG going to put a lot of faith right away. They've actually insta-locked the Camille here, giving that over to Darshan in the top lane. Camille versus Gnar is another one that tends to be a bit Camille favored. That was kind of the theory coming in when Gnar was designed, is that fighters should be able to get in and punish mini Gnar, do some damage there. Camille, an obvious case of that one, so that's going to be Darshan's matchup.
So while I will say it can be favored towards the Camille, the problem with it is, versus solo queue and pro plays, you have to play matchups like this very aggressively, right? And if you're not able to play it aggressively because you A, do not have coverage on where the other jungler is, or B, your jungler is not backing you up at all times, if you go forward and you hookshot into a Gnar and the jungler is there, then you are dead. And that can start to snowball very, very heavily. Like, you cannot play this lane too passively. If you try to just farm it out, then the Gnar is going to harass you off, is going to push you in, going to be pressuring your turret. So it's a risky matchup, but it's one where if you do get ahead as the Camille, you can certainly snowball the game. You can certainly start to really take over that lane.
Well, for what it's worth, I do trust Reynor to do a pretty good job of battle warding and kind of by himself making sure he knows what Akaden is up to. And so we'll see if that comes through as the Rengar off the table as well, as they throw one ban towards Akaden, who's not picked a jungler for himself just yet. Varus into the bottom lane as a ban as well, as the Ezreal Force would have been grabbed by Stixxay. As OpTic Gaming throws in a support ban for themselves, Alistair, then also Tarek trying to pitch down Biofrost options. Tom Kent still available. We'll see what they want to go for.
It is also fair to mention the fact that Zig has not been having very good laning phases, right? He has really been struggling in the 1v1. Even when it was Gnar versus GP against Haunter, for example, he was actually losing that matchup. So, you know, Darshan definitely has been performing incredibly well. I think he's been the standout player so far for CLG, as we're going to get to see the Aurelion Soul for the first time this
season. Huhi's first Aurelion Soul. Of course, they've obviously drawn bans on it over time, but he finally gets to bring it out here. He says it's going to be a good counter pick into Ryze, and typically the W's should be at the same range he casts some spells, so that could be fun to watch for.
It's going to be really interesting also. I think this is so smart and works very well with a split pusher, because Aurelion Soul is so good at getting out to side lanes and backing them up and helping to snowball that. If you can put Darshan in an advantageous position, he can be someone who can take over this game. And also with Glacial Augment and the buffs that has gotten, I think that Aurelion Soul got even better, because Glacial Augment was already the winningest rune, if you want to call it that, and it just got stronger. So it's going to be very, very good. But Twitch is also actually such an interesting pick into that dynamic, because Twitch is another champion that kind of can throw a wrench in the gears of split push. People always have to worry about where this guy is, because in the later stages, even if you are ahead, if the Twitch shows up and all of a sudden it's a 2v1, then Camille can be going down. So very interesting picks, and I think so much of this game is going to come down to how the split push is handled, and how these teams are managing side lanes, how they're managing vision, especially deep vision, to be able to like kind of be proactive about it and see these plays happening in advance, because Tom Kench also semi-global ultimate playing into that there too.
Yeah, so I like how these comps look at. I think CLG has a really fun way of looking at all this side lane split push and a very spread out game, especially around Darshan. You mentioned the top lane matchup. I think OpTic Gaming, their best bot lane pick probably is Arrow on this Twitch. I think he's their strongest individual performer. Pee-wee's been great, but Arrow has been, I think, on his best level so far. And Twitch is both a good hard carry in team fights, as well as you're talking about the mid game, roaming around to lane, stealthing in for ganks. I love Arrow on a champion that can individually control the game, which Twitch does.
And I'd also say that as far as the actual team fight composition here for OpTic, I definitely favor that. I think it's easier to execute in a 5v5. I think it's more powerful if executed correctly in the 5v5 as well. You have the Gnar plus Jarvan combo, set up the walls with a Cataclysm. This makes an easy Mega Gnar combo there. Twitch opening with Spray and Pray. That is very, very strong. CLG is going to have to be more crafty. They're going to have to move around the map better. They're going to have to out-rotate their opponents and find picks in odd-man fights.
And we'll see if that matters. Of course, the laning phase can always just completely throw out all the plans, and you can win game at the end of the day, but it is definitely two different looking compositions. I agree with you, OpTic's 5-on-5 looks amazing. CLG with split push and a lot of focus on Darshan, who has been having a great last 12 months or so, honestly. I thought he was very good, even when CLG looked a little bit weaker in the summer split. Looking good here as well, and now it is time to get ourselves into the game. Game 3 of the day, and it's Counter Logic Gaming taking on OpTic Gaming here in the Battle Arena. Thank you, Los Angeles, for joining us here and cheering for your favorite teams. We are on to the Rift.
Also going to have to always watch out for the extremely early roams that Hui has kind of made a name for himself doing on the Aurelion Sol. Level 1 roams even at times, level 2 roams. It's always something that is going to be a big concern with this champion. It's just played in such a different way than most of the other mid laners. Being able to have your E, the Common of Legend, fly back to lane, you can push it out, you can dump your mana very quickly, use that to kind of be a pseudo TP almost to get back to lane faster. And very excited to see how he plays it out. But he is not actually using Glacial Augment. It's going to be Phase Rush.
Okay, so Phase Rush, Aurelion Sol, it's going to be. Maybe well, we'll see. We'll go forward on that for a while. But going to be a Corrupting Potion start for him. Dark Steel Pots is not a big surprise out of PoE either. Spellbook on that Rise, of course.
And I think Corrupting Potion is even better on Aurelion Sol than it is on some other champions, simply because of how often you do go back to base. You're refilling those charges on the Flask very, very commonly. And it does make it pretty rough to deal with, I think, as far as keeping up with the pressure that he can put out in lane. No real champions can kind of match the level 1 wave clear. You'll see him position himself with his W and try to just kind of knock down that first wave so incredibly quickly. If you get the right spot, you're hitting the range minions, you're hitting the melee minions, and it's really kind of unstoppable for that push.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Keith, a bit earlier, I do want to actually point out Darshan playing Comet on Camille. It's the plurality choice by a lot in both solo queue and pro, but with the changes to Aftershock and 8-2, it's actually really good on top laners that have hard crowd control. You become basically invincible in the duel, and it's actually even some decent damage to get some extra AD in your kit as well. So I'd like to see people consider that at some point later on, especially, I think, in team fights, that durability is, I think, really, really valuable.
I definitely agree. I think when you're playing this style where you kind of have to be able to dominate lane, though, it is more of a risk, right? If you miss that hook shot, you get nothing from that rune, and the Comet you can apply pretty consistently with the leg sweep, and you're hoping to poke them down a little bit with that, and then be able to prompt an all-in once they're on kind of lower health. And Zig going for the area, I also feel that's a very lane-focused mastery here on the Gnar, trying to keep Darshan low, trying to push him in, poke him out, and not allow him to have those opportunities to actually look for one of those all-in fights. Yep.
So deal some early damage to Darshan. He's going to hope he can last hit some of these minions under the turret right now. Acadian walked up towards the top side of the map, put a single ward down, now looking for Hui. The other junglers around, though. Rainover watching for this one. Stun's going to come in, going to land there. Phase triggers as well. He can run back.
Rainover's level 3.
Does he want to find himself a battle? As Kiwi forced to flash away, and now the Flag tried to get away. A summoner burned out from OpTic, and a trade won by CLG.
Yeah, honestly, just better pathing from Rainover as Darshan catches him.
Well, the Q's not going to cover anything more, so we flashed for damage and nothing else, now getting chased back out of the lane.
Yeah, and he's actually going to take some fairly significant return damage there. Not yet level 3, so didn't actually have much to add to that. Without your Q, you're probably not going to be able to actually finish off that all in. But either way, Rainover with some superior pathing. They're both junglers at the same place at the same time. One is level 2, one is level 3 with double buffs, right?
Yeah.
And very clearly, Rainover has the more optimal pathing in that situation, and now they're looking to try to press the advantage a little bit and get a bit aggressive here, getting some wards down, denying the blast cone, knowing that the blue buff has not been taken. This is a point where they can pressure.
Rainover's going to win this duel. Of course, Acadian has flash if he needs it, goes on to 200 HP, then they go out their separate ways, but Rainover has control of this side of the map.
Exactly. You don't have to actually chase him down. You can just look to now take away this side of the jungle. You can see Hui again. Non-stop will have the push, so he's going to rotate over to this side, and Darshan's pushing up here too. This is actually risky for Zig.
Top by Zig, gets flashing away. There's going to be the stun landing. Can he land the auto attack? He's going to get a bit of damage across. One more hit will do it, but he can't reach in time. The stun will get him, but they almost get Acadian as well. Its flashes down, and OpTic forced to run away. Lots of waves lost to the turret now.
Yeah, very costly little dive there, though, for CLG. They actually spent 2 of their flashes as well, so it is a trade of flashes in the return. They're TPing back. They are going to try to deny this. Double TPs coming back in. CLG might actually kind of get caught with their pants down a bit here. They're pretty low on health.
Powers alone, though. Stun's going to land for some damage. Nice little backflip there for Darshan as he walks away. Blue buff stolen. Smite's going to land. Rainover's got to be still careful. Remember, he's got the permafrost available that if Darshan autos, they can get the stun coming through. Now, can he land any more of a root? Pee-wee's very close to in range, and I don't think he can quite hit EW. But the W's going to land. Q's going to hit. Oh, and he went W-E-Q. Got some move speed, but couldn't land anymore.
Yeah, the Q just barely missing. If that connected, he would have been dead for sure, but very risky business here from CLG. I feel like they should have just honestly taken away all the camps on the top side. They wanted to go for the bigger prize, which was those kills, and tried to chase down to do it. But instead of expending all the flashes trying to follow and go for those kills, you could just take the Gromp, take the blue, establish vision control, back off, have Zig with his flash down, Pee-wee with his flash down already, and you'd still have your summoners and the ability to look for plays later on.
Yeah, absolutely the case, but the case is that they burned a lot of summoners back and forth, and there's no material gain anymore to either side of the map. You've got a +2 CS farm for Zig right now, and as the waves into the turret, Darshan will get a little bit for himself, and he'll slightly be winning. Darshan, by the way, has gone Dematerializer in case he does stay under turret. He can get a lot of that last hit without too much issue, so we'll track as he uses that rune, but mostly keeping the stacks for now.
Definitely interesting stuff, and despite the fact that PoE did have that summoner force, and PoE has been kind of out on the side lanes and affecting stuff, you know, it's an early tier buy here for PoE. He's doing well in farm, so he's not really been negatively impacted too much by that early scuffle in the mid lane, and going to be scaling up pretty well. And it is more on CLG to kind of make these plays happen, as we said. I think OpTic, not only just with composition, but also with the playstyle that they've shown, is very okay playing slow games, looking for team fights later. That's kind of been their MO, whereas CLG is trying to be more proactive. They're trying to make things happen and move around the map with this sort of composition.
Absolutely. Right now, it's a pressure lead in a couple of different places. You can see the bot lane pushing in quite a bit for the OpTic side. They are down some farm, but I think that's a little bit to be expected when you're the Twitch in the lane. You don't usually win those laning phases. Going Fleet himself for some stats, and will be all right. As Acadian just kind of clearing his jungle, but is a full level down under Rainover, who's looking again at mid, potentially.
But it is honestly very close. Like, the CS in the bot lane is not an issue whatsoever for OpTic, and honestly, I think anytime you have a Twitch farming relatively even within Ezreal, you're going to be extremely happy about how that lane is going because of the tremendous amount of power that Twitch has in these later stages.
And it's him down 6 CS after making a recall. He went and picked up BF sword and whatnot, and just now did Ezreal come back in the lane, so Styx is going to bleed a little bit of farm here, but now here comes round 2. No flash, no TP. And they're going to look for the stun, but he jumps over, gets some time bot, but can you really win this fight? 3 versus 1. Ult into the wall, first blood for Huhi, drops turret aggro. Good dive by Counterlogic Gaming.
Very well done, Huhi. Just try again, right back up to the top side. Tanks up the turret very well, allowing Rainover and Darshan to execute that dive so easily. And Darshan is actually playing Hextech Flash.
Yeah.
That is pretty interesting. So we may see him trying to set up in a bush and looking for those later, but again, here is the dive. We see that he's fully corralled. Rainover is coming from behind. Huhi gets the early aggro there, and then he can back out to kind of maximum turret range, knowing he can take a certain amount of shots.
Yeah.
Makes it very easy to execute.
Yeah, and you saw how easy it was. They actually missed both of their primary stuns, and it didn't matter as well. Skill set you could have missed, they did. Yeah, it's 3 exactly. It's 3v1. There's nothing you can really do. Sorry for Zig, but Counterlogic Gaming, this is actually the second time I remember them putting a lot of pressure top side and getting Darshan ahead.
And this is honestly a pretty tremendous CS lead this early on. When you do fall behind the Camille, it can get to the point, you know, as I said, if you're trying to play it evenly, where it's tough for Camille. But when Camille is this far ahead, you can sometimes almost brainlessly just jump on the Gnar, and it's going to be extremely difficult for him to actually win these fights and win these trades because you are so much stronger. But jungle intervention can obviously throw something in the mix for that. So Darshan will still have to show respect at least to Acadian and can't go too aggressive until he knows where Jarvan is on the map.
Absolutely so. We'll see if they can track Acadian for round 2 with the ult that's now available for all these junglers. Quick stun, and should be no problem as well as Wiki grabs the blue buff. +4 CS for that. Is losing lane to Power Beeble in the farm, but that's expected. He left lane several times to go help his top lane, and I'm going to say that's a worth trade.
As long as Darshan gets return on investment, right? Yeah. And that's what you're trading off. He's sacrificing his power, his strength in the game for that of his teammates, and that means Darshan must convert, must get more out of his lead. Otherwise, it wasn't worthwhile, right? And that's kind of been one of the playstyles that he has always been known for. You know, last year, hearing Afromu talk about him, it was one of the things where they thought sometimes he gives up too much for his team. Sometimes he sacrifices when he should be playing for himself, and that's always kind of the risk going back and forth with these styles.
Yeah, you're going to have a stun right there, but a damage on a Zig. Aurelian still coming to the top side as well, and Zig is trapped in. He has no way of getting out of this one, not even close to Mega Gnar either. Is the stun coming across the wall, not going to land as he flashes away, gets that summoner back. And that'll be resources spent, a flash used, and Zig will survive another day.
This has got to be pretty frustrating for Zig, though. The amount of pressure CLG is putting up on him on the top side is pretty tremendous. And all things considered, it's not like it's going that bad on the top side when you take into consideration how many resources they have put up there. But they're going to look to continue ganking this. I mean, he's now down a flash, and they're going to probably try to repeat. But OpTic trying to respond on the bottom side of the map, getting an early Infernal here would definitely be a big win.
Yeah, it's really nice for them. An early smite for timing. Looks like Acadian's going to have his smite back up soon enough. I think they're actually aware that Sejuani's top side of the map. Looks like Zig spotted him, trying to steal a blue buff away, so Acadian no problem getting this one. Pops the shield, no big issues there. Raynor, of course, gets a blue steal for it, but I will take the Infernal Break almost every time.
Do you think you'd be a little bit nervous early smiting after the Ezreal game we've had today when Stick Day is on the map? That would be a little bit tragic. In my opinion, it's not really worth doing an early smite there. Why take the risk? Yes, it is very slight, but come on. I mean, we saw games lost. Both in Europe and
smite
here.
twice anyway, right? And he knew the timing in 15 seconds was going to be enough, and he smites number 2. I don't know. Either way, it's going to be Darshan, who needs to raise his turret a little bit, of course, because the other one is taking some damage as well, being pushed in, but looks like he knows the timing well enough. Still going to sit there and last with that turret, no problem. And yeah, I'm sure he was just watching the health bar go down, but I have seen that mistake before, people of giving away first turret gold just by trying to knife the farm.
I have, and that is honestly a pretty huge mistake if you're going to make it, but Puhi right back up to the top side. They're going to look for Zig. He's flashless.
Burns the flash for it, lands it slow as well. Zig not a lot of ways out of this one. He can open into the wall and land a stun afterwards. Has hopped to the side, gonna juke the stun for now. Puhi still has the ultimate, finally burns it there, and that should be one more swipe. And the attack comes through, but Darshan might down to the turret. This is gonna be enough damage, and he's gonna go down, because Zig finds a solo kill off of a sort of botched dive from CLG.
Yeah, I think Darshan could have actually perhaps continued to run down. He tried to run back through the turret, and I think maybe took one extra shot because of that. We'll have to see the replay. But either way, I mean, Zig, 1v2 kill with the resources being expended to camp him. That is definitely not what you want to see happen if you are on CLG's side. So Darshan going for this. They have Rainover soloing out the dragon, expends the flash to actually land the stun after the hook shot, and does a really good job, honestly, of avoiding the stun here from Hui. And yeah, maybe use the ult early to slow him down, but let's see. Could Darshan have actually just continued down through? I think he could have.
Walking down would have prevented one more shot, I think.
He would have at least been able to survive the turret. Maybe would have gotten cleaned up by a rotating Rise or a Twitch or something, but I definitely think it would have been the correct choice to try to run down instead of going all the way back through the turret.
And yeah, to mention the other points, I think Huhi dropped aggro at the right time. He would have died to a turret shot, I think, if one more went towards him, so I can't blame Huhi for at least when he dropped aggro, but you're right. You know, only going +1 assist and burning a flash for it, not the best use of resources of CLG. Now getting invaded on this side is Akita grabs all the small raptors now for damage onto Rainover. Big knockup is there. Rise in the mix as well, 3v1, and looks a bit cleaner when OpTic does it.
Yeah, certainly so, when no turret is involved. Able to take away the Raptors, get a kill there on a Rainover. Nice use of PoE's ultimate, in addition to the roam, moving them up to the top side. And now that the bot lane has kind of been released, taking down that turret, you have to be much more cognizant of where the Twitch could be, right? This does make it a little bit scarier for Darshan, despite the fact that he is still in an advantage and working quickly towards that Triforce. He has to still show respect anytime you don't know where J4 is, and now add to the list anytime you don't know where Twitch is. You have to be careful.
Absolutely agree. So whenever you see Arrow off the map, that's going to mean a little bit of hesitation and safety from Counterlogic Gaming as Arrow cleans up the top lane and comes back down. BF starting to Zeal. We'll see which one he wants to go for. I think there's actually, 3 of the 4 Zeal upgrades are viable options in this game. If you're going to get dove by a Camille, Phantom Dance is worth it. Hurricane and Shiv are both good teamfight uses. I wouldn't almost ever go Fire Cannon, but those are the 3 I'd consider. So I'm curious what Arrow wants to go for in his build.
I'm certainly expecting Hurricane. I think it's by far the most common.
Yeah.
Not that it's always right in all situations, but the amount of power you get with the extended range on your ultimate bolts with the Hurricane is so strong.
Totally agree.
And if you are building for kind of a teamfight composition anyway, then maybe you should go for that. But at the same token, if you're going to win teamfights despite that, then hey, maybe go for something that keeps you alive, like Phantom Dancer.
Or even like a thing like Shadow Shape, which arguably clears the wave a little bit faster so you can get out on the map. And I think, again, it's viable options, but you're just kind of counting margins at that point. So we'll see what happens. Rainover going to go for some more invading. A ward comes down, spots Katie once again, so they know Jarvan bot side. Of course, he will also know via the ward that Rainover's in front of him, so both junglers' presence known. The attempted stun going to come in, but no damage from Huhi's side, as PoE seems easily enough able to clear the minion waves away, and actually he's the first to move if he wants to. Just puts a ward down and walks away.
They certainly have the opportunity, and honestly, so far, I'm definitely liking OpTic's position, but they've been in these good spots so many times throughout the season that it's hard to know where they'll go with that. You know, will they be able to execute in the later stages? Will they be able to execute when it comes time to team fighting? But, you know, only being down 1K with the Infernal in this sort of composition, I think, is pretty nice for them. We'll have to see what Darshan can get done, though, especially once his Triforce is complete. That's such an incredible point of power for CLG.
Rift Herald summoned for the mid lane as the squad is joined up to look for mid lane turret damage. A quick stun's going to land elimination, but then about 3/4 HP, and here comes Herald to do a fair bit of damage. Shelly slams in, and turret down to about 1/3. Looks like it won't matter, though. Counterlogic Gaming just get all they could with that resource, and maybe it wasn't worth the time when that they took to farm it a while back. Either way, item spike still waiting to come in. Trinity Force, of course, a very big deal for Camille and has about 700 gold to go until the item's completed. So that will be a delay for Darshan when it comes through, though. We'll have a much nicer time dueling Zig, of course.
Yeah,
Handoff.
It's going to be really strong when he does get it. And he did skip Tiamat. You know, he didn't go for that, which a lot of Camille's do like to go Tiamat into Triforce. But, you know, a fair bit of investment in the early game as far as double Doran's items, the early tabbies, and these sorts of things. But when he does hit that Triforce is really when he is going to be so strong in that 1v1, especially, you know, with the rank 2 ultimate at level 11. Still waiting to see if he can actually get anything out of the Hextech Flash, because that will be kind of fun to see if he can do anything with, you know, charging that up out of a bush and looking for a hook shot or something along those lines. But pretty atypical, I would say, to see that, and looks like it's the Hurricane.
All right, so Hurricane comes through, and that means a first item spike comes through for Arrow onto this one. A couple of battles had in the mid lane, but no ulti out of Reignover. Power of Evil, though, has Spellbook, but no cleanse on him, so the cleanse attack doesn't come through on that side, despite the Sejuani on the other side of the team.
This is a second Infernal that is now live, and OpTic already having one would really like to stack a second, so CLG could be forced into a team fight around this. You know, giving up 2 early Infernals is very detrimental in the later stages of the game, and we'll see if CLG is even willing to take a team fight here, because it's definitely going to be a bit risky.
Look for it, but no slow into 6, so he jumps out of this one. Arrow also breaks stealth. They know he's around. Both top laners have teleport. They can join in if they need to, otherwise it's a 4v4. A little bit of slow goes towards PoE, but he walks right back out of this one. GLP on cooldown for 35 more seconds. Q comes in, no hit to be had, and Counter Electric Gaming once again going to walk towards the Infernal break. 5,000 health on it. They start going for these shots here. Reignover and Acadian both have Smite.
And Darshan just backed. He got his Triforce. He's waiting to TP in, and here he comes. He's going to try to go for PoE.
Acadian's around, though. It's going to be a Smite fight here on the bottom side of this one as they look for the stun, and Acadian goes in, not going to find this. Going to be right in the middle of the team. Pops steal, but has no way out, ulted backwards. And yeah, Darshan looking for a fight, not going to find one. A quick kill picked up, and looks like CLG just had the control of that area of the map as Zig did not TP down. Another re-engage comes in, though, as Darshan on the front line. They've actually brought some more Battle as well. Kidnaps the Braum. He's going to flash away. No stun going to land until after he gets out of that range. And yes, now here comes Zig. Going to flash forward for the Mega Gnar. Brings in a couple. Looks for a bit. Battle flashing away, and Arrow opens up for some damage as well. But Zig just drops way too fast. Not enough taking this on him. 2 for 0 CLG.
That ultimate from Reignover was so good. Right as Zig flies in, he nails a Sejuani ultimate onto him and just gets bursted down. Very well done by Reignover.
A lot of damage coming through. So nicely played. Counter Electric Gaming get the Drake and the 2 kills, and they still managed to make the TP match. And I got to question Zig TPing into a 4v5, though, that honestly there's no need to keep fighting.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a bit questionable, but with the Mega Gnar bar charged up, they felt that they could perhaps turn that around. You still do have your Twitch, you have your Rise there, and here's the beginning of the fight. I mean, Darshan getting chunked out pretty heavily. I think that gives them a bit of confidence as CLG moves forward. The TP comes in. You can see the Mega Gnar bars all the way charged up, and just watch the ult from Reignover. Right as he goes in, he is stunned in the air and takes so much damage, just getting completely bursted down, and CLG just handled that so incredibly well. I mean, if that's a 4-man Mega Gnar into a wall and Twitch opens up, like, you can see that team fight in your eyes.
Well, he was able to Mega Gnar 2 of them, right? While in the air, you can apparently combo those together. I didn't know that, but shout out to Zig for putting that combo in. But yeah, the W couldn't come down to chain the 2 stuns back
and
together.
It was quick flashes.
And the damage was there. You're right. So still well played out of the squad, and CLG, and despite the best efforts of OpTic now pulling out to a lead for themselves. A solid 1,400 gold on this side. Turrets 1-to-1. Drake's equal as well, so the only difference is the gold. The actual sort of map state essentially equivalent here.
Yeah, definitely a big deal to equalize on that Infernal. It's going to make CLG feel a lot more comfortable, especially with any potential third Infernals coming up. You know, that can be extremely detrimental. And Darshan is at a very strong point right now, but Zig, despite the fact that there's been an enormous amount of pressure on him in the side lane, how much he was focused, he's really not that behind.
Now shots on who he's going to be stunned up. No flash. Does have cleanse. Doesn't burn it. Thought he was safe. And actually, yeah, low health bars. Actually burns Summoner heal, but Guardian was enough to keep him alive.
Yeah, a little bit mishandled on that dive. Lemon Nation should have been the one tanking up that turret if he could have managed it. Perhaps not able to actually tag Huhi. That would have saved him at the very least their Summoner heal.
Yeah.
But either way, it's Huhi trading just his ultimate for a heal and an ultimate there from Lemon Nation and Arrow, and that's going to be feeling pretty good for him. And they're looking for Zig once again here on the bot side of the map.
1-3 Nomadic has been the champion. He's been itemizing against Camille, and now under the turret he goes, and just Huhi lurking around in the shadows. It's enough to keep Zig from trying to get any farm. He's going to go for a Q.
all of OpTic
Yes.
is coming down here, though. This is a little bit risky. 5 men from OpTic are going to be down here really fast.
Rise ult, party of one, power people going to look for Darshan in the wings. He's going to flash away. This wants to stay alive, but the re-engage on the top side. A big stun comes across. Meganar available. Flagging back to the back lines. Will Acadian jump in? Yes, he's going to climb. Try to grab a few, but stick stay right back out. It's going to be an Ezra running away. Dodges away from a Q snipe. And another kill on the bot side is Rainover's lost his life as well. A slow out of Darshan. The team's still trying to run away from Acadian, but the knockup's going to land. That should be a kill in a Biofrost. As he's slowly running away, pops the big shield, but Zig still on the chase, jumps forward for a few more, gets the kill picked up there, and OpTic get a 3 for 0.
They get a lot there. At the very least, they can take away the jungle, get a lot of bit of farm here, push it up. But that was honestly pretty silly from CLG, knowing that OpTic had so many more men coming down faster. Their bottom lane was so behind the play. If you watch this, they did see some of these guys moving across the wards near the top side of the river, seeing Lemonation move down. Everyone is missing. And they're pushing so aggressively onto this turret. As soon as Zig came back towards the turret, to me that kind of triggers the fact that men are coming in response, and CLG stuck around, tried to fight, felt that they would have been able to get down here fast enough with Biofrost and Stixay using the Tomcatch ultimate, but it's just much too little too late. As Pee Wee was incredibly strong, knocks down Rainover very quickly. Hui was already dead before the fight really broke out in earnest, and not much chance for them in this retreat.
Not at all. So well played though by OpTic though. That means the gold back to tied here in this game. Twitch on 2 major items. Infinity Hurricane is done. IE completed means huge team fight power here. And you're right though, CLG, they're trying to play around Darshan's matchup, but as you mentioned, they overstayed. They gave that 5v5 to OpTic with all 5 standing, Meganar available, everything else. That was the fight they wanted. They got it. 3 for 0 is going to be worse next time.
And the biggest problem is it was more like a 5v3 for a lot of it, right?
Sure.
You know, the OpTic members got there a lot faster, and CLG had not really gained any sort of advantage in the team fight before those members came down. So, you know, perhaps becoming a little bit too predictable in their repeated plays towards the bot side, or just not showing enough respect to the fact that OpTic can respond to that pretty quickly. They definitely do need to be fairly careful from this position because Darshan is not really extending his lead. And team fight is powerful.
Attempt to the mid lane. Darshan wants to get some damage across. Acadian gonna be right in the middle. Golden in his own Cataclysm, but out they go. A stun's gonna land on PoE. He runs away. Darshan not gonna be living much longer though. Gets a shield, tries to get away, won't get out.
Zig
Arrow
is
gets
here.
the kill. PoE gets stunned up, but you're right. Zig is joined the fray. 2 kills picked up already. Another knockout comes through for Acadian. Make that another 3 for 0 for OpTic. They are not being stopped.
And this could just be Baron. I mean, Rainover is still alive, but this is a 5 versus 2. You go straight to Baron at this point in the game. If they can secure that, that could honestly, you know, be the death blow here for CLG with the lead that OpTic is starting to build up. And they are looking to knock this down, but they need to get more men in the pit. Acadian and Zig are both very, very low, and
Yeah.
the Baron backspikes do a lot of damage.
Well, they're using PoE to look around for Rainover. They know Sejuani is alive. They
Rainover's not
assume
gonna
she
try.
has Smite, but you're right, he is not going to try it out. They're going to get this one away for free. The control ward got rid of all the vision. So, down 1,000 HP, down it goes. Clean Smite for Acadian and OpTic. Grab a 23-minute Baron.
Very well done, and here's the fight again. CLG looking for this flank from Darshan, but nothing really happening there. Acadian, honestly, with a really good engage, buys so much time using his stopwatch, and Arrow is free-firing in the backline with his ultimate that whole time onto Hui, taking down Darshan, and PoE pushing forward with the Seraphs, able to absorb a lot of damage. Zig arrives with the Meganar, and they get the teamfight win, they get the Baron, and now we'll see how much more they can actually take down to extend this gold lead.
They're poised to take a whole lot right now. Keep in mind, we are still on 8.2, so this Zhonya's Hourglass with Power Fuel means free escapes with the ulti anytime he wants. That's going to be next week when that gets taken off the board for pro play. He's safe to keep pushing in. Darshan split push gets them something on the board. CLG bring it back to only a 2,000 deficit.
And this is Power of Evil, a full item ahead of Hui at this point in the game, right? Hui sacrificed his farm, sacrificed his laning phase to put Darshan ahead. And Darshan has gotten nothing, honestly, from all the early help that he was given by Rainover, by Hui. He has not really been able to extend those advantages. And now they're left with kind of the weaker team fighter in the mid lane, and Darshan is going to have to continue to split push, going to have to continue to spread the map, because CLG, quite simply, cannot win a straight-up 5v5 at this point in the game.
Yeah, at least they got something out of it, though. Darshan was able to knock down the rest of bot lane outer, plus that bot lane tier 2. He lost local gold by playing safely to not be ganked. He ran away before it fell. But counteraction available, of course. OpTic still stronger on the map with the red buff. Arrow knocks it down quickly. Top lane outer falls as well, and makes the turret score 3-3. The gold lead almost 4,000 right now in OpTic's favor. They got a couple of recalls in. Zergreave's now done for Arrow. Looks like he's going for Armor Pen next up with that longsword in his build.
Gonna try to get
go away.
control here too. Fighting heavily for that elimination, and Acadia moving around. This means they're going to get very likely the top tier 2 you would think they could be able to take down, but so far pushing up towards that mid tier 2, trying to get more damage in, trying to look to set up any potential dives if the opportunity does arise.
Nice stun right there. A bit of spray coming across. Elimination that blocks the shots, and Acadian healthy enough. Keep in mind, it's a Warmog's jungler, so he's really doesn't care about this poke whatsoever.
And Zig has finally gotten the bottom lane pushing in their direction, so he's going to be shoving this up, and that could draw more attention down to the bot side or open up another avenue of attack for OpTic. But honestly, so far, CLG has done a very good job defending these inner turrets. The tier 2s have taken very, very little damage.
Okay, so now this one at 2/3 HP, getting shot a few times. PoE and the rest of the squad, yeah. As soon as Arrow shows up, that means, all right, look at this health bar. It's going away. That one falls off. 4 turrets to 3.
And credit to OpTic there for their patience, for actually moving around the map, manipulating the waves well enough to actually kind of split the pressure and make them open up.
Arrow nearly got himself a kill on a Huhi as well, down to under 1K on that Aurelion Soul. When the bot lane can duel the mid lane, that's when you know Arrow's had a very good game for himself.
Certainly has, but in the end, it's an ultimate traded for an ultimate and a heal again, so not too bad for Huhi. He does get out of there, but maybe a sacrifice of this tier 2 turret.
Bot lane tier 2, top lane tier 2 going to fall as well, so OpTic just completely shredded the entire mid line, and this is now what this team looks like. OpTic had so many games where they were competitive for the first 30 minutes. The mid-game was close, but they could never find a way to actually get a big advantage, not to say even win the game. And here they are now 6-3 up in turrets against a strong macro team in CLG. They're beating them in team fights with competition and getting to them in time. And this is looking to be improved OpTic in week 4.
It's certainly an extremely promising game for them so far. And they have to be able to close it out,
yes.
Right? They have had powerful team fight compositions in late game scenarios where they've outscaled their opponents. I think very heavily back to their game against TL, where they had a late game Kog'Maw, Orianna, Ornn type composition with very good scaling. They had kind of outscaled TL, but they flubbed some team fights. They got caught. They lose that game. So they still need to stay composed. They still need to stay very focused and be able to close this one out. But there's very clear win conditions for a comp like this, which I think does help a team that is struggling somewhat, quite a lot. Your group, you 5v5, you use the Twitch ultimate, you protect Arrow. Like, it's such a clear win condition.
And they've done it very nicely. And honestly, respect to Zig for withstanding a 1v3 lane in the top. And says, it's okay, it's a team game. I'll play around the team fights. It's not just about laning phase here. I won't split push into dying forever. And he found a way to make himself relevant.
And he's actually up gold now. A very little amount of gold. And he's up about 150 gold on Darshan. But still, the fact is, a tremendous amount of effort. All the map resources that CLG poured up into the top lane. What have they got?
Well, Zig, look! It's a 1v3 on a Zig. He's going to die for this one. Ulti burned, and Biofrost steals the kill for good measure.
But what do they lose on the top side? Do they lose an inhibitor turret? Do they lose more than that?
Not quite a dive, and there's only 1 minion alive, so the backdoor bonus is going to come right back in. PoE gets some free time, though, and yeah, this inhibitor turret could be taking some real shots as Darshan is still splitting the bot lane. I don't think it's a TP target. It's only a 4v4. OpTic can feel pretty good about this one. Another turret falls.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to give that up, it could be a fight.
Stun onto Acadian. Here is the TP, so 5v4. Is this what CLG wanted? Can they make this work? Darshan has no ult to pin them in, though, and he can't find his way in. Just have PoE with the Ghost on, going back into the team. Again, 4v5, but OpTic happy to go for it. Quick save out of Biofrost. No arrow for Arrow ultimate, I should say, but look at that. Hard 4v5. Their top laner's still dead for 10 seconds, and OpTic just win the fight anyway.
Oh, and a nice Rise ult just to get out cleanly. PoE is honestly having a fantastic game, so strong at this point, zoning Darshan off when he TPs in, then re-engaging, forcing Stixay to be eaten up and back off there. That secures the inhibitor, so very well done. And despite the fact that CLG get a clean pick onto Zig, it's more in the favor of OpTic again, and Zig is now back out on the map. They have TP advantage, which makes knocking down the follow-up inhibitors even more easy. Simply push out a side lane, you can TP to join the team, threaten dives, and these sorts of plays.
So we'll see if that next dive comes through then. OpTic Gaming going to put PoE on the bot side of the map. Ulti going to be down for a few more seconds. Has the Zonias though, 4-9 is back up. Has his shields as well. All of his active items are available. Only, I guess, yeah, 1.5 items left to build. He's on the way towards Death Cap. Not completed as yet, but that is a huge rise, quite obviously. Gold-wise, 2,600 above Huhi. That's almost a full item in most cases.
And interestingly enough, there's basically no MR on CLG, right? So PoE is going to be that much stronger because of the threat of the Twitch, because of this Gnar and the J4. It's really only armor across the board. There's one null
Null
magic mantle. That's the entirety of the MR for CLG. So Power Evil is extremely fed, can skip a Void Staff and just be that much stronger. So he's in a fantastic position to be able to carry the game, and he doesn't even have to be the only one to do it when you have a late game Twitch already.
Absolutely. Huge respect to PoE for identifying that, though, and just going death cap straight up. I see a lot of players just forget to check tab when they go through their shop list, and again, respect to PoE for making the right buy for the right time. Ulti going to come across. They're going to look for a Baron rush. They're inside the pit, but Arrow's not there. He didn't make it to the circle. I mean, arrows and circles, they don't mix. It's like 6-year-olds playing with those little, or 2-year-olds playing with little toys, you know, but he's going to go for the play in the mid lane anyway.
Zig
did not
on the side, he's going to go back out.
Zig wants in, can he find a target? A big ult across the wall, looks for almost 3. They will get Biofrost, will they get more? 6A exhausted, low on health, he's running away, puts the Q down, gets the slow, and they will only kill one. Only support dies, 4v5 for CLG.
But all the waves are in their favor. Look at the massive wave on the bot side, the super minions crashing in the top side, and the minions are arriving in the mid lane. This is perfectly timed out by OpTic, and as a result, they'll at least get this one middle inhibitor and could just go straight to bot side and look for the triple inhib.
Well, at least Darshan spent some time clearing some of the bot lane wave away, so it will be a little bit slower in reaching the turret, but with 15 seconds still on Biofrost, you imagine they can still challenge this turret just a few seconds slower. They push Darshan away. He's going to come out, and Naka's going to land on 2 of those backlanders. Who's going to put the ulti across? A big stun as well, but they don't have the same kind of damage. A setup like that doesn't mean much for the Ezreal by comparison. Turret going to take some more damage. Biofrost is alive, does have his ultimate, and almost gets the kill in a rain over. That was a close one.
Very
out they go.
Close. They do at least hold on to their triple inhibitor, so the game will continue. If you lose that triple inhib, it's basically all sealed up. Still massively in the advantage of OpTic. Darshan looking to catch a late recall, but doesn't know who else could be there.
And he gets Power of Evil slow, goes for the flash to land a stun. We've got a Kaden nearby, but here comes the rest of the squad. Ults to immune the knockouts. Here comes Biofrost. This is the comeback that CLG needs. The one they deserve, a trade of kills. Darshan dies for Acadian, but at this state of the game, that's probably worth it for CLG.
Yeah, it could be if they can actually pressure a Baron, right? And that is kind of the question. I would say as far as immediate power on the map, it goes in OpTic's favor. So unless CLG can actually use their smite to their advantage, they don't really get much out of this, right? And I don't think with the game state that they can afford to go over to the Baron because Arrow and PoE are so ridiculously strong, and Reignover may be the one getting caught out here. 3 men collapsing on him.
Yeah, hit by the Q now, tagged up by Nara, pops the ulti to get away, but PoE's cutting him off, flashes in for the root. There's not really any ways out for Reignover, pops the Hourglass. The rest of the squad just defending minions for now, so a few more seconds bot, but that is still going to be a dead Sejuani.
And that's going to be a Baron for OpTic with the super minions pushing in on all sides. This should be their Baron. Very hard to contest for CLG. If they were to try it all, it would be so telegraphed, but they're not even going to leave the base. It will be an OpTic Baron with 2 inhibitors down, a very low 3rd inhibitor turret. OpTic has such a clear path to victory in this game.
Elimination with the shield. Not going to put it up there. No ulti from 6 anyway. They can see him inside the base fighting minions. No steal to be had. Counterlogic Gaming going to lose another Baron here as OpTic are in an amazing spot now. Over 8,000 gold ahead, looking to double their wins with this game here.
Yeah, the death cap is now completed for PoE. 5-0-2. This guy is absolutely monstrous on the rise. He almost has 1,000 ability power. 992 AP.
That's nuts.
On this rise right now. Like, that's actually insane.
And
one combo will kill pretty much any of the carries.
Oh yeah, no, that's painful. This is why a lot of people pick up Rise. He's doing, like, this is Scrim Rise, where a lot of times it's like, hey guys, why do you pick Rise so much? I feel like it doesn't do all that much. You get games like this sometimes where players like, this is why I play Rise. I can have performances like this, and that PoE Arrow 2-man carry squad, and the rest of the team playing better around them, it feels like. That everyone else is starting to reach up to their level. It looked like this was a 2v5 team for so long, but it's looking a bit more like an actual team here now as they are poised to take this win over Counterlogic Gaming.
Certainly are, and that's been what they have preached this whole time. Teamwork, collecting themselves and getting back up after these losses and being able to improve week over week. And it's looking like it's paying off here against CLG. We'll see if CLG can say anything about it.
A lot of damage on Biofrost. Meganar only hits on 1. A little backline axe for Reignover doesn't mean a whole lot. Bromwell's going to tag a little bit. And now Darshan back in the front line. Pops the ulti in, but he's going to get shut down quickly. Arrow picks up 1. He picks up 2. 5v3 in the fight. Rise brings in more to knock down more kills. A quick consume and trying to save his teammates there is Biofrost running away alongside who? He's 6A kiting back to stay alive, but the inhibitors are falling. And Suba's coming back in from the mid lane as well. So now the Nexus turret's under fire. And 3v5, Counterlogic Gaming probably unable to stop this. Is OpTic starting to crack open the Nexus. Another knockup going to be found. They will get Biofrost one more time. PoE grabs his shield. And still the health bars stay afloat as OpTic go for turret number 2. Who he tries to find something to fight for the Nexus now open. A stun's going to be found. They get 1 kill. Arrow is gone. A knock in for Acadian. Who he almost stunned.
Hui's on
but
the
they're
Nexus.
back onto the Nexus. One more shot will do him in, and OpTic improved to 2 and 5.
Nicely done from OpTic. Finally able to have that cleaner late game. The stage of the game that they've struggled with so much. They come together as a team. They're able to get the early game advantage. They're able to survive on the top lane where Zig is so heavily pressured. And this is really just a fantastic game for them. And against a team that is doing pretty well, a team that is a playoff team.
CLG had won 3 straight, including beating Echo Fox, the only game that team had lost. CLG was like, all right, we are back. It's time for faith, and true to counter logic, as soon as you believe in them and say, this is a win they can get, that's what happens here. OpTic, the story was always they could do it if they just had a couple of things go their way. This time it did. Zig, honestly, I think he did the best he could withstanding some of that pressure. There is very little, I thought, really room for improvement in how much camping CLG did. At the end of the day, they got into the team fights, they played around PUE and Arrow, the 2 carry threat, and it really came through for OpTic.
It certainly did, and this is so encouraging for both OpTic and their fans, as a team. That they finally are closing out these games. They've picked up a couple wins. Means that, hey, it is so much more attainable, right? They've had so many close games, but at the end of the day, if you never pick up the wins, you're saying, okay, well, there's obviously something they're missing. They're showing that they're kind of building this pieces, and they're putting it together, and they're finally able to actually get a big win against a top-level team.
Sure.
And now the question is, how far can OpTic go?
I mean, they can go farther. The next 2 matches are Clutch tomorrow and Golden Guardians to round out the first round robin in week 5. Like, those are beatable teams, even on paper, let alone how strong they looked here today with a team fight focused composition. Again, I love Twitch for Arrow. I think it suits him incredibly well as far as team dynamics, as well as the play style of all the players. So, I mean, this is, let's start being overhyped about this one. This is the start of the up road for OpTic now, where they can start beating teams at this caliber.
Especially with that schedule, as you pointed out. I mean, if you can end the first kind of round robin, 4 and 5, you're kind of starting to like your chances as far as improvement that has been shown, as far as climbing towards the playoffs, and that would really be encouraging for them.
Yeah, so we'll see if it's going to be an encouraging OpTic now from this point onwards. We're, of course, partway through day 1 of week 5, and they're starting to look pretty good. So now let's send it down to Avli and OpTic's Wizard with the Realm Warps.
Thanks, guys. I am here with Power of Evil. Congratulations on your win. I want to ask you a little bit about going into the game against CLG, and especially against Hui and his Aurelion Soul.
Well, so Hui is an insane Aurelion Soul player, and we knew about that, so we kind of planned that we just give it to him and we just try to survive the early game, because I think we are really good at falling behind and stalling the game. So yeah, we just stalled the game and sacrificed Zig completely. Like, he was dove like 5 times or something. And yeah, that was our game plan, and it worked out good.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit about maybe stalling the game, prolonging these games. How does that work with maybe OpTic and your playstyles?
Well, so I feel like we are not really we don't have the fully synergy yet as a team, and I feel like we lack some game knowledge, so like sideline management and stuff like this, right? So often it just feels like we're just on the back foot, and we had so many games already right now to just stalling, so we get really good at this, and just scaling comms really good for us right now.
And you guys, OpTic has had a little bit of a rough start, but you guys have had really close games against some top teams. So with kind of like the stalling and learning with play styles, how are you guys going to address those issues and work on improving them throughout the split?
Well, so the long games we lost were pretty sad. I think they were mainly coming down to player experience. I think I'm the only one on this team who had like really, really long games in like EU LCS. So when we came to like the 67-minute games, people really got stressed out. They didn't really know what to do, and I kind of blame myself a little bit on the losses as well, because at first I'm like, guys, calm down. This is our winning condition. We can do this and this and this. But then if people are like, we need to do something, we need to do something, we need to do something, I get really stressed out as well, and then it's like, okay, let's go. And then, yeah, we just lost. So it's like, we lost as a team, obviously.
A little bit of impatience in an hour-long game can be seen as normal. But I want to ask you a little bit about your teammates. You've now spent 4 weeks with them. What do you think of the guys?
Well, everyone is really passionate and motivated to prove, I guess, the community and probably most people right now are wrong that we can reach playoffs and that we are a playoffs team. And right now we're not in the best spot, but I felt like every loss we had was really close. So besides the Team Liquid game, so I think we can contend, and we will just try to improve from week to week, and hopefully reach it.
Well, congratulations again on your win. And let's find out how our analysts are doing with their predictions at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
3-0, baby.
Right on track.
Amelie doing my job for me.
Right on track.
Throwing some shade over towards the analysts.
When
I
you're
love
hot,
it.
you're hot, Dad.
I love it. When we're hot, we're hot. When we're cold, we're cold. OpTic Gaming, man, they eke out the win here. The comeback victory off of some early leads built by CLG, but ultimately CLG not able to close it out. Still plagued with some issues through that mid and late game.
Yeah, and when I saw the draft, I was super excited. It was Who He's Aurelian Sol. I was like, these are the conditions with which they need to have to pick it, because he doesn't necessarily crush lane. He can outshove the rise. He's got cleanse to stop him from ganking. They have a side lane that they can play around. They can make it impossible to collapse on that side lane. They're going to be ganking top a lot.
Right, but Mark, it's kind of cool to get that insight from Power of Evil, where he recognized, or rather mentioned that the team recognized who he would lunge at that champion. So they built their entire strategy around it and being able to try and absorb that pressure. How do you think they did?
They did pretty well.
Okay.
It was a little bit of CLG messing up and a little bit of OpTic finally figuring out how to play around it, because the first couple roam attempts that came in, it did feel like CLG could have gotten more off them. There was just over-aggression, generally speaking, around that top side.
All right, I think we're going to take a look at some of those CLG ganks in the top lane, see how they played out. Again, it did overall net them advantages, but a lot of resources invested.
Yeah, and I think CLG just went all out to kill Zig, and Zig outplayed a few of them. I don't actually think that OpTic was ready for the A-Soul. I think Zig was a little bit ready, but strategy-wise, they weren't creating advantages on the other side of the map very quickly, and most of the time, they were leaving Zig out to dry. But I thought Darshan misplayed a lot. He kept flashing into his hook shot instead of saving his flash for later. The roam timings were off on CLG. The Camille ultimate was up in about 10 seconds here, and he also takes the wrong path out of the turret afterwards. So they gave a lot of go back that they didn't have to.
Right, and it's misplayed a little bit on both sides. Zig uses his hop, but isn't expecting the minions to get pulled to aggroing the Aurelian Soul, so he only gets the first part of the hop, doesn't get the full distance. So it's one of those situations where neither team is playing it super cleanly, and that will probably favor the late game team fighting team, because they're not snowballing that top side. It was never like, oh my god, we can't have Gnar and Miniform in the side lane versus Camille, because he kept getting those that little bit of gold back every single time.
It's interesting, right? Yeah, we look at CLG, and a lot of what we've praised them for is that they do come in with a plan. That there is a plan, there is a strategy that's clear. But now what I'm starting to notice is a pattern of, well, the plan becomes predictable. We just heard Power of Evil say that they knew exactly how the early game was going to play out. And is that a concern for CLG if they're walking into every game showing their cards to the opposing team?
I think plans are good. You can maybe throw some shade about the narrowness of the win condition, but I think more so it's their overcommitment to the plan regardless of circumstance.
Right.
Because we've seen Zig play a lot of matchups through 6 games. Darshan will beat him. You don't need to send Sejuani up there 24/7. You don't need to send Who He's Aurelian Sol up there and go down 50 CS in mid lane because he's roaming so much. Let Darshan win. You pick the winning matchup. You'll still have roam advantage. Play the game, right? Don't just play exactly your condition of getting Camille ahead.
Right. And I think because they never really snowballed it how they wanted to, they felt like they never actually hit that win condition. The first roam didn't get a kill. Second roam, they finally get the kill.
Right.
And the third time they go up, they trade 1-for-1. So it wasn't like they blew the game open like they were hoping to, and I think that's why they had that tunnel vision of like,
desperation
we
there.
still need to get Camille further ahead. We need to get her further ahead.
Yeah.
They never realized, like, you know what, it's fine at this point.
And that's where, funnily enough, you got to give some credit to OpTic for being able to gracefully fall behind, as Power of Evil said. Like, they've gotten a lot of practice within these initial weeks of the LCS in falling behind and having to stick in it, look for those mid to late game team fights.
And it does play to their players' strengths, even if they may not have realized that early on. Arrow's always been a late game team fighter. Power of Evil is a late game team fighter. Zig hasn't been able to win lane, so that's how they can get victories. And I like Zabuchin drafting for those conditions, and this is where they turn it around.
Yeah, they finally start bringing Zig the backup that he needs. Shows up with his friends. Power of Evil is huge at this point, kind of zoning away a lot of the backline by himself, doesn't need to be worried about anything. They are just going to get in this long chase down sequence where they're going to get a lot of kills, and Zig at this point is going to be able to much more effective team fighter.
Right, this is where things start to fall apart. 20 minutes into the game, not too long after, we'll see another team fight in the mid lane. The Baron was picked up off of that. This will do it for the replays, though, because now what I want to talk about is OpTic's strength of schedule, just as the casters were mentioning. There is a legitimate possibility that this team makes a run to 4-5 at the midway point of the season.
I think a lot of people have been changing their tune in the recent weeks. The fact that they are playing the top teams relatively closely. You can see how good Arrow and Power of Evil are in the late game situations, and they don't have much playmaking in the early game. Some of their lanes are a little weak, and I think there's still this like little bit of hesitancy, but you see how this team can win. If they can stabilize early games and pick team fighting comps, they can generally beat anyone.
Right, but I want to know how you do that, right? Because if you're so used to your fallback plan, if you're so used to your ability to take losses and deficits and extend the game, how do you ever make that leap to say, all right, we're going to try to get leads in the early game? Because if you don't, right, if it backfires on you, it probably snowballs too hard in the other direction.
You wait until you're good at the first thing first, right? Like this is their second win, and I'm so interested in how they'll match up against Clutch and Golden Guardians in this style, because it's not like they are picking awful lanes that can't win. They're just making sure they pick late game in case. And Clutch Gaming, technically they did beat TSM today, but that was one of the worst played games we've seen this split. So like, I'm now very interested in that game.
Anyone's game. The league is getting flipped on its head today. Up next, 100 Thieves challenge FlyQuest, who are finally premiering their intended starting roster. Don't go anywhere.
They're going to look for the stun, but he jumps over, gets some time bought, but can you really win this fight? 3 versus 1. Ult into the wall, going to juke the stun for now. He still has the ultimate, finally burns it there, and that should be one more swipe. And the attack comes through, but Darshan might get out of the turret. This is going to be enough damage, and he's going to go down.
We got this, TP. We got... Wait, flash. Watch Nar. I'll take her back. I'm ulting. Yo, so.
Darshan not going to be living much longer, though. Gets a shield, tries to get away, won't get out. Arrow gets the kill. BOE gets stunned up, but you're right, Zig has joined the fray. 2 kills picked up already. Another knockout comes through for Acadian. Brommel's going to tag a little bit. And now Darshan back in the front line. Pops the ulti in, but he's going to get shut down quickly. Arrow picks up 1. He picks up 2. And OpTic improved to 2 and 5.